everybody in, but now we do. I officially call the Thursday, August 20th, 2020 meeting to order. While we were getting everybody on, I'm going to call who I heard check in from the board. If I missed somebody, please let us know. Myself, Cleo Duckworth, Susan Matson, Ruby Baker, Lorinda Hale, William Johnson, David Gleason, Elliot Trevino, Rick Cowan. Charlene Oliver, are you on? Charlene Oliver. Okay, she'll be counted as absent. Okay, we've got the record of attendance. The next thing that we're going to do on the agenda is the opening statement regarding the virtual meeting. I apologize, bear with me for reading. The Emergency Communication District of Nashville and Davidson County has determined that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans and the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County in light of the coronavirus, and that pursuant to the executive orders number 16, 34, and 51 issued by Governor Lee for the state of Tennessee, the Board of Directors of the Emergency Communication District of Nashville and Davidson County is conducting its meeting electronically, having given clear notice of this meeting agenda and how the public can access the meeting electronically at a time and location reasonably accessible to all members of the public. And that will be part of our meeting notes. Next up is the consideration and adoption of the minutes from the June 18th meeting. Everybody should have gotten those and had ample opportunity to review. A motion to approve would be in order.
I so moved.
Linda Hale made the motion and Ruby Baker second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye. Do we have to do a roll call vote?
I wouldn't think so if there wasn't any negative. Russell, you tell me. If I had anybody that opposed, then I would do a roll call. But otherwise, I would show the 9 people all voting yes.
Mr. Russell, you're muted.
Russell, you're muted. Kenya, could you unmute Mr. Freeman?
I'm trying.
There we go.
There you go.
Unmuted. Ms. Duckworth's assessment of how to proceed, I think, is sufficient. If we do receive any a negative or anybody in opposition to anything, we can ask for a roll call. They suggest you do roll call on anything that would involve financial, but obviously that's not going to be before us, I believe, today. So if we have anything that requires the expenditure of funds, let's do a roll call regardless of any opposition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the minutes have been approved. Next up is the review of the July 2020 financial statements by Mark.
Okay, just give me a second to get that up, and those that want to view it on the screen with me. Well, I thought I had it here right at the beginning, but I don't. There we go. Okay, can you all see that? Now, Larry and I found there was a problem this morning when we were looking at this, that it pops up in the middle of the page. And I've scrolled up now where you can see the whole page, but can you all see the whole page or just half of it?
I can't see I see half of it.
Okay, so you'll have to scroll up to make it a full page in order to look at it.
Oh, I got it. I see it. Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, you were sent a copy of it. You may be able to look at it.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, I got it. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're going to look at the first page here, the balance sheet. And you can see as of the end of July, we had $179,000 in our checking account. The local government investment pool was almost $13.2 million, which gave us cash on hand of almost $13.376,000. And just for your information, here in August, we also got that additional money from the TECB. It was about a little over $1.2 million, which was that advance for the money that's going to come about due to the surcharge fee increase. So that's I moved that over into our LGIP account. So next month you'll see quite a bit of additional money sitting in the LGIP. All right, I'm going to move on to the transaction report so we can see what took place during the month of July. For those of you that need to scroll the page up so you can see the whole page, I'll give you a second to do that. If you see anything you see here with an X, I had to avoid some checks. So the first 3 items on this page are where I avoided 3 checks. What happened was the printer that I normally use in my office to print checks wasn't working. I had to move to another printer here in the department, and we had some issues with the way it was feeding. It fed different than the one in my office. So the first 3 items there where we avoided the checks. The items down near the end of the page, those are the reversing entries to back things out for the entries we made. So let's start here with this first check that was written to ProVantage. That was for, let me get my reading glasses on here where I can. That was for computer cables and keyboards that were purchased during the month of July.
Outside the backyard.
The next item here, priority dispatch, that's the annual maintenance renewal for the ProQA software that's used here in the center. That's the software that guides the dispatchers through, determining what instructions to issue for the calls that come in. The next item on the list, Office of Fleet Management. That's the normal monthly payment there that we're making in, that's actually June's payment. We did it in July. That's the vehicles that were released from the motor pool. Buoyance is the language line. The $3,853 was for the language interpretation services that were used in July. Then you got myself, Mark, and Larry. Those are the payments to us for our admin services. Russell Freeman's retainer fee for the June time period was paid in July. All right, the next item there, the $29,976 to DBL Siegenthalers was for the services they provide regarding public awareness, rescue wrecks, the various things there. Dell computer, let's see, that was for 10 laptops that were purchased for the department. The big check that was written to Motorola for $662,000. That was the annual maintenance for the CAD system. We pay that at one big lump sum. So that's $662,000. That was, $651,000 was for the annual maintenance for the CAD. There was another $11,000 that was added to that check for the monthly maintenance for the nice logger equipment. All right, let's see. Moving down. Let's see, we've got another check to Motorola. I had to issue 2 different checks because they go to 2 different locations, different addresses. But that $24,000 was for an upgrade to the NICE system. We booked that as a capital expense. And then we have the AT&T, the normal monthly bill we pay for AT&T for our telephone services here. Same with TDS Telecom. That's the Annie Alley services for the telephone company that works the southeast part of Davidson County. The $560,000 for TBI Fiscal Services, that's the quarterly payment we make to them to use their database. I'm sorry, I just went through all the ones that that were the ones reversing entries, so they'll show up again in the bottom. Let's see, And then we've got, if we look down under ProVantage, there's another one for $700 there. That was for 20 keyboards. And let's see, the $417,000 for USA Today, that was that the ad that we ran in our
Sit downstairs.
in the Tennessean newspaper.
I can't have this upstairs.
The public
and I told
hearing
you I was going to open that
regarding our budget.
You've already had 5 in 2 days. So,
Lorinda, you're not muted.
sorry.
Thank you.
And let's see, looking down, let's see, there was a journal entry at the bottom of the list there for $11.95. That was our interest on our checking account. And then dropping down, there's another journal entry that was made of for $3,473. That was the interest that was we made on the LGIP account. Quite a bit different from what we were making earlier in the year, where it was closer to 17 and 18,000. But that's what we'll see for the time being every month. All right, so that's the various transactions, payments that were made to various companies for expenses and such. Let's jump over to, let me move to the other. Let's see, we'll move to the list that shows income and expenses for the entire month. Yeah, looking here, you can see that the only income that we had for the month was just interest, bank interest, and we had total operational expenses of about $811,000, and then we had $32,000 booked under capital expenditures. So that's it shows a net loss for the month of $839,988. And then we're gonna jump over and look at the budget versus actual. And let's see here. There's really nothing to be concerned about here. It's only the first month of the fiscal year. The only thing that really, jumps out shows that we've spent 83% of our budget under the advertising and newspaper, but that's the only ad we run during the year. So that's the only expense we're going to have in that category. So there's not a worry there. And so for the time being, there's everything looks in line. So unless there's any other questions about this, we'll just ask everybody to somebody make a motion to accept. This is our monthly financial statement for the July time period.
David Gleason, so moves.
I'm sorry, who was that spoke?
David Gleason, so
David,
moves.
okay. Thank you, David. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Lorinda seconds the motion. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The record will reflect all board members are voting to approve. Next up is public awareness. Philip, are you on?
Yep, can you hear me?
Maybe.
No, he's here.
Here's your.
He just unmuted himself.
Okay.
Let me get that down.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes?
We can.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not as familiar with WebEx and the mute button was hidden. Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to let my colleagues, Stephanie England and Tiffany Childress, give you updates on our advertising initiatives and Rescue Rex update. Before I do that real quickly, I wanted to just report that Director Martini and I had a conversation last week at Portia Research about your quality assurance survey.
Excuse me, I'm having problems here. It's like I'm hearing a lot of feedback, or is it on my end, or it's like it's going in and out.
So the feedback is coming from everyone not having their mics on mute. So if you're not speaking, remember to put your mic on mute, because it will pick up everything else.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
And I'm having trouble muting. It's not muting. I may go out and come back.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, so much better.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry for that. I was just letting you all know that Director Martini and I had a conversation with Portia Research last week about this year's quality assurance survey, and so that is underway. We're probably going to be making some tweaks to this year's survey questions. So aside from that, I'm going to let Stephanie England give us our advertising update, and then after that, Tiffany Childress can give everyone the update on REX and some decisions we made there with regard to how to proceed with REX this fall in a remote capacity.
Thanks, Philip. All right, I'm going to go through. I think Mark sent out the advertising report. I don't know if you wanted to share it on the screen or if I can, and I just can't figure out how to. Oh, I don't think I'm able to. But I can just speak to it. Our digital advertising campaign for new movers continued to, as always, perform well for July. We had over 200 clicks on those new movers digital ads targeted to new residents in Davidson County. So that one continues to perform very well. And then our general call volume awareness campaign also performed well for July with 229 clicks. That's giving us an average of 0.12% on the click-through rate, which is above industry standard. We did pause the recruitment campaign for July. We had just some organic visits hit that website, but since we are all positions are filled, we paused that one, and it was very successful. So that's great. And then we did implement this fiscal year. The new advertising buy for this year went into effect in July. I think we reviewed that plan at the last board meeting. Not a whole lot of changes, but just an overview for you guys. We have 6 billboards rotating throughout Davidson County. 13 radio stations are running our 911 spots right now. And I put a list of those stations in the summary document for you all. I know that that's always something that you want to know about. So those are all listed in there. And then we will start running digital radio in September. That's going to be Spotify and iHeartRadio. And then we have a video that we'll be producing once the new creative concepts for this year's are approved, and we'll kick that off and get those placed as soon as we're able to. We did review creative concepts with the planning committee earlier this week, and I think Mark has sent that out to all of you as well, just as an update. So we'll keep working on those and hopefully have new creative to rotate into this advertising plan here soon.
Thanks, Stephanie. This is Tiffany Childress. I am going to update you on the REX program. After many discussions with our team, we believe that the safest for everyone and most cost-efficient way, an option for the REX program is to create a 15 to 20-minute animation video. In the video, we will display the importance of when and when not to call 911 like every other year. The concept and script will be new for this year, of course. I want to say that the show will not be related to COVID in any way, and the reason why we decided to stay away from COVID is because the script and the video can have multi-purpose script just in case we need to use it in the summertime or any other time, depending on the feedback we get. The new 15 to 20-minute animation will also have breaks to cover the interaction portion that we usually do. in person to give a chance for the students to answer questions. And it might have multiple choices for the kids to say B. And then we'll, of course, come back and Rex will say, yes, you're right. So that's how it will look. The way this will work is we're going to create a link on the website, and once the school books the show, we will go ahead and we will go ahead and send a link and password to the video to the schools. And we want to keep it to the closed link so it will help us continue to track the shows and students, so we're for reporting reasons. That's all the detail I have. If there's any questions, but today we're just wanting to ask for approval so we can get started, since it is going to take probably at least a couple months to create this animation.
And I would just add there, Tiffany, that we did discuss this with the Public Awareness Committee. We met yesterday to talk about this, and as well as some advertising concepts. And wanted to make sure you all knew that this is not an added expense coming out of our rescue budget that we would typically be using in the fall to do the show. I feel like this is the best way to use this funds in a way to have some content that will allow us to promote rec and outside of the classroom and other ways beyond this situation of the pandemic.
Yeah, we talked about that during the Public Awareness Committee yesterday, and I really like that idea of a, hold on. Okay, can you see me? Hey, I really like the idea of the animated video for the Rescue Rex, because I think it's going to give more opportunities for some teachers and some classes to participate, because it's not like you say, everybody will have to go to one area to watch the show. So I'm in favor of it. So Cleo, what say you?
I think it's a great idea also, and I would assume that would be a recommendation from the committee. And so if anybody else has anything they want to add to or question, please join in. But a recommendation is being made from the committee to accept and do a video. Anybody else?
I would second it, although since I'm a member of the committee, I don't know if I can.
Anybody else have anything they want to add to it? We do have a motion from the committee, a recommendation, and a second has been made. Do we have other discussion? Do we have other discussion?
Oh, yes, I couldn't mute it, but unmuted. But the director, Mr. Martini, would he need to review that since it's animated, or do we need anything special, any kind of permission or something like that, Russell? I just wanted to know how that would work with an animated video.
I'm going to defer to Russell as far as the legal component. I can't imagine from an operations perspective that Metro Nashville government would need to give a yay or a nay to the video any more than they're doing for what's been presented in class in the schoolrooms.
So I had a question too. Will there be anything needed for, like, can it be recorded or like a PowerPoint, or like, somebody else use it without permission, or how does that work? I can work out the details later.
I believe the animated film would be the property of Metro ECD. Obviously, anything that is displayed or shown in the public school system, I would imagine has some there's some policy there that has to be maybe reviewed or some sort of synopsis of it before it can be displayed. I don't know. I know we have some educators on this board maybe could help if they've had some experience in that, or even if DVL Siegenthalers had to get some pre-approval on any other of their publications in the school system. But obviously, we would sort of treat it, I would imagine, like we do our rescue recs, coloring books, and those materials, educational only, not for use to be reshown or anything of that nature. And I know we've developed a procedure there, and I think we would just stick with that the same. Has anybody got any thoughts on how we go about getting approval through the school systems or the private schools as well?
Hey, Russell, through any video component has to be approved through, I believe it's Olivia Brown at the Board of Education. We have to submit anything that's going to be shown to students has to be reviewed at the board first before it can be done. We can get it reviewed once and just have approval for it ongoing, but we still have to get it approved.
Yeah, it's a good point. Once it's approved, then obviously we could, if we had the stamp of the Metro Board, obviously it was going to be further shown in any, private school systems or facilities. You could say it's already been Metro approved, but they may have their own policies as well. I presume we would have that presentation done through DVL to the Metro school system unless I would get with Mark or anyone else on the board and go through that process, and probably you, Brenda, would be of assistance and guidance.
I like the idea that individual classes can show it without.
Thank you, Russell. That's noted, and we will definitely pursue formal approval from the MNTS board. But I think everything you said is in line with what we're thinking in terms of Rex rights in general and them being in line. What we're asking for is not out of line than what we've asked for in the past with regard to that.
I guess we're all presuming this is going to be a G-rated animated film that we're doing here anyway, so I think we'll be safe.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion before I call for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The record will reflect that all members of the board have voted to approve this. Thank you very much. Thanks, Russell, for your help. Next up, do we have anything else under public awareness? I'm sorry.
I was just saying thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you all. Up next is Steve with his report.
Great. I appreciate y'all's time this afternoon, as always, getting together, and especially in these awkward moments, right? We're doing this remotely and all these pieces. I really just can't wait to get a chance to meet you all face to face and do some of this business in person. But until then, this is going to work. I did send a report out through Mark earlier this month. One thing has changed in that report, and that is our staffing level. We were 0.5% overstaffed.
Excuse me, I'm hearing feedback and it's breaking up and I can't understand. Can you ask everybody to mute again, please? Thank you.
There we go. Let me try. Since my report that came out earlier this month through Mark, there's been one change to the staffing levels. We were 0.5% overstaffed, which was a thrill, and I know you guys understand that for the last several months. We did lose one employee to the police department, which we expected. She was in a transition process over to the police department. She started just a few days ago, so that puts us at even staffed, 191 of 191 positions filled, which is a great thing right now. And we have a pipeline full of potential folks that have passed pre-employment testing, just waiting for interviews, probably another 40 to 50 of those folks for potential vacancies in the future. So lots of good looking at our future, and we move toward remaining fully staffed. Call volume remains below our normal for this time last year. Not as low as it was, but as long as things stay closed and people are encouraged to stay home, That's going to continue, and activities that draw people out, right, remain canceled. We're going to continue to see lower than average call volumes, I believe, which is great because we're maximizing those opportunities to take advantage of training and getting these new folks we just hired onboarded successfully.
Good job. Can I make a comment? I like to think that the campaign for the 911 operators, I'm thinking that is really helping drive people to apply. Do you think?
Well, we're certainly not getting it from word of mouth from our current employees currently, which is what I'd like to see going forward. So they've got to be hearing it from somewhere, and I'd assume that's probably the case.
Good job. Thank you.
Yep, lots of work that was done by this board to do the campaign to get the word out that we had needs, cooperative efforts with human resources, and those pipelines put in place to fill our pipelines. That was huge. It really was. We're set us up for some success. Lots of training hours. I'm concerned still about our compliance with the 10-second answering standard. We're honestly, yes, Ms. Matson.
I had a question on that. I think it was last month you sent out something that said that you changed how you calculated that. You included these 8,600 calls in there as well as 911. And I know in the past, 911 had the priority, and that was the focus. But I know that brought these numbers way down. Is that the way we should be calculating it?
Yeah, according to the NENA standard, it's 10 seconds inside of your busiest hour and the busiest day is the goal. We're answering 90% of our calls within 10 seconds on the busiest hour of the busiest day. The way we were calculating that previously, which is kind of erroneous, is we were only factoring the busy numbers of 911 calls. That may not reflect our busiest hour and our busiest day. We really need to look at 911 and 8600 at the same time because that is really affecting our call volume. As an example, during the tornado, we received hundreds of calls. 23% of those were 911 calls, and then the others were 8600 calls. During the derecho on May 3rd, about 20 to 30% of our calls received in that time period were placed on 911, and the others were received on 8600. And the reason that's relevant is if I'm on the phone call with an 8600 caller, it still delays my opportunity to get to that 911 call, that ringing call. If the two present to the 911 center at the exact same time, that 911 call is going to have priority. But if that 8600 call presents to us 2 seconds before, we're going to answer it first, and that 911 call is going to hold or wait or sit until we get available. So that really is it's important to me that we understand what our busiest hours are, and then next steps figure out what those 8600 calls are and how to make them go somewhere else if we can, because it's really causing us a challenge in answering 911 quickly when we're busy.
Do other centers calculate it that way also across the country?
Nobody's asking us to prove our data, so I'm sure that it's up to whoever and however. And if I want my numbers to look good, I suppose I'm going to drop 8600 out of there and only report on 911. That's a challenge that I've had, and honestly, I've worked with the National Fire Protection Association as they do their insurance standard office assessments for how quickly we get fire and EMS calls dispatched per their national standards. Some of those standards say we have to be answering our calls in a certain number of rings or whatnot, just like this, right? And when I talked to those folks, when they came and checked my numbers, and I'm giving them the real numbers that I have, they've said, well, your numbers are low. They're so much lower. This is not here, but in Williamson County previously. Your numbers are low. I said, yeah, we're tracking it on purpose. We're really looking at these numbers. I'm really assessing. I can tell you exact percentages and show you the data of what we're doing. Are you getting that data from these other centers? And he says, well, no, they just get a survey, and it's a yes or no whether they're complying. So it's really based on an honor system. And I said, well, I would like you to go back to these other centers and ask them to provide you statistics like I am, because us really looking and really trying, and we're not able to hit it, I bet you these others aren't either. They took that effort out to other 911 centers around the country, and they found that to be the case. And so they have revised their standards reviewing process to be very operational heavy and require these dispatch centers to provide statistics and facts to support their claim that, yes, they're meeting it. So really, not to be a stickler for the rules, but if I'm going to be held accountable for them, I want to make sure that that we are performing to our best standard that everybody else is too. So probably not, to answer your question. Others are probably only reporting their 911 numbers, but I don't think that offers us a true picture of how we're doing when we're busiest.
Can I ask, what would those numbers be if you just did it on 911? Would it be up to the standards then?
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. I'll pull those for our conversation. Matter of fact, I've been running those kind of side by side as well as seeing what it would look like if we only considered 911. Yeah, it does look closer to that 90% or better number.
That's just my concern, because the 8600s, if we don't get to them that quick, that's not a big an issue with the 911, in my opinion. But I would look at it that way.
Yep. We're working with 311 and some other solutions inside of Metro government to really look at that 8600 number and figure out if all of those calls are really ours, if they should come to us or they should go to other places. And I'll tell you, we just did some anecdotal assessments of those. About 11,000 calls a month on 8600 lines, which represents about a week worth of calls, really shouldn't come to us, should go somewhere else. It's people calling 8600 to ask for if the courts are open, report a blinking yellow traffic light, ask about traffic or garbage pickup. 4,000 calls a month are just wrong numbers. They don't mean to call us in the first place, so 4,000 times a month we answer that phone just for somebody to say, oops, I didn't mean to call you. These are some of the things that we need to roll off of us so that we are available to answer those 911 calls quickly. Been doing a lot of training, obviously, with all of our new hire onboarding. Had some first team activations with a few concerts that were down around Nissan Stadium, outside kind of drive-in type concerts, and some participation with new police department academies, and then the juvenile task force deployments that were also available there through July. Though I think they're going to take a different approach going forward with a new chief, so that we may not see those in future months. I do have a couple of items that aren't on my agenda that I wanted to bring up to the board. I would have rather had this conversation face to face, but we'll have this conversation here if now's the opportunity. I just need some guidance and direction from the board. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask your permission on that one. If there's any question about my report and the other item.
I just unmuted you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. We had some legislation, 911 and legislation at the state level has become very interesting in the last probably 3 years. We've gone from a period of stale activity at the legislative level to some real activity. And what we noticed in the last legislative cycle what we noticed in the last legislative cycle was really a lot of attention around 911, especially as legislation came requesting a surcharge increase, right, for those districts that were requesting a reduction in funding. So in June, we had an opportunity to speak against a bill that was proposing that in an effort to bring some consistency to how all 100 911 districts operate, take all operations, facility maintenance and construction, salaries, benefits, all aspects of 911 operation, and force it underneath the Emergency Communications District. So the Davidson County ECD would no longer be a supporting governing entity, for example, in partnership with Metro Nashville. In this scenario, the Davidson County ECD would assume all operational control of the Emergency Communications Department, including the dispatchers and facility and all those pieces, and in an attempt to make everybody look the same, right? There's about 50% of 911 districts that do function that way, and about half of them that don't, honestly. We spoke against that, as it didn't make it was fixing a problem in specifically Wilson County, just to be real honest. It was a legislation aimed at trying to force some consolidation in Wilson County that hasn't happened yet. That was blanketing everybody else. So we kind of spoke against that. I had an opportunity to go and coordinate with Senator Yarborough and others on a Senate subcommittee to sort of make our effort, and it was successful to sideline that legislation. That legislation wound up in summer study, and it's going to come back again this legislative session, I have no doubt, sponsored by Russ Bricken and some others. There's some Representative Lo Russell out of East Tennessee also is bringing a bill that is similar in nature to bring all ECDs into some sort of a consolidated environment, which again could be great for some places and could not be great for other places. And I believe that trying to force that is a challenge. On top of that, we know there's another bill that's coming. The State Emergency Communications Board at their meeting earlier this month, for the first time in history, had a local government make a decision to stop funding the dispatch services at the level that they previously did. So they were funding at about $200,000, and they opted in June to reduce their contribution to the local emergency communications district by $200,000, and then their budget for this upcoming fiscal year also reduced their contribution by $200,000. The State Emergency Communications Board's rules have always allowed for the option for the board to reduce the 911 funding received from the surcharge collection by that same amount anytime a local government reduced their contribution to the district. There's always been a threat, but nobody's ever asked them to take action on that. Because this threat was action, the action already took place for last fiscal year. The board opted to give them, it was Lawrence County and the city of Lawrenceburg. The board opted to give them until November 1st to return that money that they took out of the Lawrence County Emergency Communications District budget, or face a $200,000 reduction in 911 surcharge revenue received from through the state disbursement, which is about $400,000, right? They could stand to lose about $500,000, darn close, between local funding and state funding if this goes forward. That local mayor is, as I understand it, is committed to bringing some legislation in the upcoming session that is going to attempt to give authority to the local government how ECD money is spent. Basically saying, if I have to contribute to it, then I get final say over how it's distributed, how it's spent. Which is a concern again, right? When we start getting into, I look up now at Davidson County system. Williamson County functioned very similarly, where the county government maintained the facility and the dispatchers, and the ECD board supported that effort through technology and training and other pieces. City of Brentwood was very similar, where the city maintained the operations of the dispatch center, and the ECD funding supplemented some of those expenses. If we get into a situation where some of these fringe groups or fringe efforts start really impacting how we're doing things and what's working for Davidson County, then we wind up really seeing something quite dramatic, right? And I think the extreme example of this, just for the conversation, is we have about a $9 million operational budget, right, annually. Metro government contributes about another $15 million between salaries and facility maintenance and whatnot. So combined, we're looking at about a $22 million operation. If, worst case scenario, one bill passes that pushes the entire responsibility of the dispatch operations onto the Emergency Communications District, and at the same time a Lawrence County or Lawrenceburg legislative effort were to allow for local governments to pull their contribution away, we could quickly, in a 12 to 18 month move, see us swing toward $9 million in surcharge revenue come into the ECD, and the Metro government seeing an opportunity to walk away from their commitment and taking their $15 million and putting it in other places where, and that would leave us in a giant hole, where right now we find ourselves in a pretty good spot. We find ourselves in a pretty quick deficit, and that's a problem. I raise all of these concerns because I'm only aware of the activity at the legislative level with the state, and having had the opportunity to jump in kind of strategically and speak at the right time when it's in front of a committee because of a partnership that I've had in previous agencies with a group called the Tennessee 911 Association, and specifically a lobbyist for that 911 association named Will Denami. So Will and I's relationship with the city of Brentwood and through Williamson County, he's also a lobbyist for the representing the county, but that relationship made me aware of, hey, this bill is going before this group, and if you're not contacting Senator Yarborough and making your way to this committee meeting, this thing's going to move without you, and you're going to wind up in a spot that it's going to be hard to fight back from. So my request this is a group that is not, the Davidson County ECD board is not a member of, and we don't have, I don't know if we have a lobbyist representation currently at the Hill for things like this. We can expect another cycle of 911 legislation for sure. Money came, right? The surcharge moved from $1.16 to $1.50. The money is there, so legislative efforts to grab a hold of it as quickly as they can and call it a variety of things is coming too. And I would request the opportunity to speak to whoever is necessary on the board, however y'all choose to do that, whether it's a committee or whether this is conversations with Chairman Duckworth or just however we proceed to explore the opportunity to investigate Davidson County's involvement with this association or the potential of hiring a lobbyist to represent Davidson County in situations like this, so we're not left on the back burner when this stuff moves. Yes, ma'am.
I'll say this is an age-old question. 20, 30 years ago, the county governments were trying to take the money from 911 and make them pay for the dispatchers. I did some studies on that many years ago. But it continues now, and Cleo can correct me, but our position has been we don't want to have control over all the staffing and such like that. A volunteer board is not in a position to be into personnel issues and such like that. And I do believe Russell is the lobbyist for Tina, and he usually takes on our side of the issue too, and we can work out something if we need to. But I hope they don't do that, because there's no way we can fund that. And I don't think Metro is going to leave us hanging either, because they know what other things to do. But I think it's important to keep up with it.
Susan, I agree with what you said. We don't want to take on that kind of. Russell, was he going to say something?
That's David Gleason.
David, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So yes, in agreement for Davidson County, Nashville Davidson County, we don't need to be the personnel committee and operational running it things committee. We are what we are, and it's working good for us. Every county and agency is different, and whether those cities, counties have managed their budgets well or not, they shouldn't be, trying to force one size fits all. Stephen, to the point as far as involvement in the TN911 group, I would, Madam Chair, just ask for Council Freeman to do some research on that. I've heard differing things about that organization. Not that their work is not good, but how they're set up may not be the proper way to be set up. So I would support looking at hiring our own lobbyist because once you get into the group, then you kind of have to go to that group think sometimes. And I think Davidson, Nashville County, we're large enough and we have unique situations enough to where I would support looking at perhaps our own lobbyist instead. But that would be my suggestion: is let Council Freeman come back with some research on that and for that group, and secondly on what if we're able to hire lobbyists as the Nashville Davidson County ECD. And I can make that a motion if needed.
My comment on that would be is I know that Steve is, I'm talking about Mr. Martini, has been fairly active with TN911, and they do have a paid lobbyist that he mentioned, Mr. Donati, and And I know that he was very active on behalf of T911 when the rate surcharge increase was going through the legislative bodies and the advocates that were there. And if I'm not mistaken, Steve, TN911 was an advocate for the surcharge increase. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, short answer is yes.
Yes. But just like you said, there was a couple, and I can't think of Carol's name off the top of my head, and I should because she's on the TINA board over in Wilson County.
Carol Ann.
Yes, and has that whole Carol Ann, yes, and has that whole. I still can't figure out how her system works. It's got a whole separate deal with fire, police, first responders, EMS, and it's just a whole, I don't know how they even juggle all that process, and I think as Steve indicated, that sort of was the target of this, for lack of a better term, sort of central dispatch issue that was brought, and then, and where they're kind of headed with that, and now that you've got all this new money, I mean, like you said, everybody, it's like, well, how are we going to spend it? Where are we going to deplete and make them cooperate in the funding? But there's what's the old adage? You get this, get one blessing or something usually brings on some other significant issues and problems. And this is certainly one of them because everybody's got new money and everybody's trying to figure out how to obtain it, retain it, put it to use as 911 without, I guess, the internal politics and interaction of their local government, not just their district, their ECD district, wanting to get their hands on it. And I think everybody's got that problem right now, Steve.
Yeah, I'd agree. And to clarify my request, there's the TN9. I really kind of had two requests to investigate, and I just needed direction from the board as how to go about investigating, whether this is a full board discussion or committed to a committee review or whatnot. One is the TN911 piece, right? There's that piece, and I agree with David that to say that Davidson County's interests can be represented by TN911, I'm not sure about that because of Davidson and Shelby County and Knox County. Some of these larger counties sometimes run at odds with the smaller counties across Tennessee rather than in line. Knowing Will Denami as I do, I'd be interested in exploring, like Dave was talking about, a specific lobbyist to represent Davidson County ECD separate from a particular association. And that may be Will, it may not be, and that may be part of the discussion too. It's kind of two considerations. Is TN911 an appropriate association for us to consider, and are we interested in considering a lobbyist in the first place to represent our interests? And then if yes, then the who can be debated or discussed after that.
Steve, this is Lorinda. Can you or Russell, is there a lobbyist now that represents the larger cities, the combined cities like Chattanooga, Knoxville, Memphis, regarding 911 matters, or is it just all under the same umbrella?
It's my experience, and Russell, you've got the experience here in Davidson County. My experience in Shelby and Hamilton and Knox, they have a tendency to partner with the lobbyists that are associated with the metro government. There's not one in particular that's representing Shelby ECD or Hamilton County ECD or Knox ECD or Davidson. Typically, the largers go with their metro government lobbyists.
And you know as much about that as I certainly do, and certainly historically this board, I'm trying to recall, has there ever been a time when a lobbyist was actually placed on a retainer for any particular legislation that would have been coming through in any particular year? Or have we funded any particular associations other than TINA, which does not have its own hired lobbyist, which was brought before that board, but it was a budgetary issue because, as we know, lobbyists are not cheap by any means. And and sort of, I know Tina kind of partnered with, just to sort of give a little credence to TN 911. Tina kind of partnered with TN 911 with regard to the lobbying for the surcharge. So there's been some partnership there by the use of that lobbying power and or supporting it, not so much financially, but as an organization to agree with TN 911 in that particular on that particular issue anyway. But others, I'm not aware of there being any major conflict. And Steve, being on the state board, you probably have some insight on what you've seen in some of these lobbyist groups with various.
Okay, maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. Should we perhaps, given the nature of politicians and government agencies when it comes to money, should we perhaps look at forming a coalition of some sort with the larger cities? Look, I realize we each have our own setups as to how the ECDs are set up in Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Knoxville. Should we look at forming a coalition with them that would protect our interests? Because I would assume our interests are fairly similar, if not with the larger cities than they are with the smaller counties that operate in a much different fashion than we do.
My thought is very possibly that would just simply have to be a board decision. I think that obviously we would want to know how their, dispatch and center operated and make sure, we do have some similarities and or again, operate almost identically as Steve mentioned, Williamson County and Davidson County pretty much did. My understanding is most of the very larger of the districts do not do their own dispatch. Am I correct, Steve?
Yeah, that's correct. Shelby County supports facilities and technology, but they don't own the dispatch. That's Memphis Police, Fire, and the local agencies there. Same, I believe, in Knox County as well. I believe that's the case. I think Hamilton's the exception, not the rule, for the larger agencies.
Yeah, the $1.50 wouldn't be enough to do it all.
You are right.
That's the something we do it all. I'm just trying to figure out how we can best align our interests if we're going to face this onslaught of legislation to protect our interests here.
Okay, I just want to say, I think that if we did some sort of coalition, I think it's like Steve said, we'd definitely have to look at Williamson County, Brentwood, because we do know from past experience that they operate to a degree as we do here. I'm not sure that our own lobbyist is not the answer. Russell would have to tell me if that's something that our monies could be spent on. I'm thinking maybe we need a committee to talk with Steve and whoever else we need to get them to, and then report back to the board. Just my thought. Somebody else got something? I know David.
Yeah, I'd be happy to serve on that committee.
I was going to say, I was going to suggest you, but does the rest of the board feel that way, or do they want to take the whole thing on and handle it board-wide?
I think it's something we need to look at.
And I agree to let David kind of take to give us some information on this. I support David.
Anybody else have thoughts on it? Lorinda?
I think it's something we need to be looking at, and I'm sure it's going to have to be discussed at the full board, but I do think it'd probably be a good idea to put together a committee of a couple of us to investigate how it's being done elsewhere and if we can serve our interests in a better fashion by doing it.
I agree. Does anybody else want to work with David on a committee?
I would like to.
Okay, Lorinda. Anybody else? Susan?
I'll be glad to help if y'all would like me to, because I have a background in it.
I didn't hear what she
She
said.
said she'd be glad to help.
Okay. Then is the rest of the board all right if we establish the committee? David be the chair, Susan and Lorinda serve on that committee with him, and get with Steve and Russell and whoever else we need to come back to some kind of a recommendation.
I agree. Or I make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes will reflect that all board members present voted yes. Steve, does that work for you?
Absolutely, it does. I do appreciate y'all considering that today. I was hoping that coronavirus was going to subside and let us get together to have face-to-face meetings before I brought such a heavy topic to the group. But the reality is, here we are in September, and primaries are done. So work to start moving legislation at the state level is going to start today, if it hasn't already, continue through the fall. So the earlier we have a voice in that process, the better off we're going to be. Thank you.
Very good. Do not ever hesitate to come and ask for what you feel like you need, please.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Ms. Pat.
I have a question.
Update on the remodeling effort.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, I just wanted to ask, since you work with the state board, and this is just a thought that crossed my mind, you know, a lot of people have a lot of financial distress and such like that. I don't know if they're getting rid of cell phones yet. Is anybody seeing the impact on revenue from the phone?
What we've seen from a revenue impact in the last probably 18 months is just a leveling out of the revenue.
Excuse me, I'm hearing feedback again. Can we mute?
We've pretty much saturated the market in devices, right? I have 2 cell phones here for one person. We're running out of the number of cell phones you could possibly put in the pockets of one person. And as that happened, the state board really started to see a leveling off of revenue, which really precipitated the request that we see the surcharge rate that was put in place in 2014 as a Band-Aid move from that $1.16 to something more similar to the $1.50, which was in place for residential landlines for years and years and years since the late 90s. That's really where we're at. Could it or may it need to move again? That's possible, but really what needs to happen next is we the state board, needs to clearly identify what it costs to run a 911 center. There's some base numbers, right? We all answer calls, we all dispatch calls. What is the base number that is required to spin up a dispatch center of 5 consoles, for example? And then you can extrapolate that out if you're a 20 console center or a 45 console center or whatnot. Step 1 was make sure agencies had enough money to survive next year. Step 2 is really bringing some accountability to that conversation to say, now that you have the money, this is what we're expecting you to do with it and the level of service we're expecting you to provide with it. So I don't expect another push to request more money for 3, 4, 5 years because, and rightfully so, the state legislature wouldn't entertain the consideration without good, hard, solid facts to justify the request.
And my question was that because of the COVID and people losing jobs and businesses going out and such like that, is that affecting revenue? Revenue, you know, things that we'll have to budget on.
It shouldn't impact revenue on our side since we literally are a surcharge revenue on existing phone lines. Unless businesses went completely under and they stopped paying for their phone services entirely. But honestly, the business line, if we were to lose all of the landline and business line revenue for surcharges, that would be inconsequential. Most of the surcharge revenue today comes from wireless anyway. And I think teenagers' thumbs would have to fall off before we stop buying cell phones for recently. So I think we're okay.
One more question. I know y'all sent out an email with potential new ads for the 8600, and we haven't talked about that. Are we going to talk about that today? Is it on the agenda?
research on it, my understanding. They're doing research on it, Susan. They're gonna move ahead and come back. There's some of them, they had several, as you could see with what they sent out, and my understanding is they're gonna go back and try to do some true up of that and then come back.
Well, putting my 2 cents worth in, a lot of them are, to me, a little on the silly side. I think it's a very serious issue, and we're really trying to distinguish, the gray areas between calling 8600 and 911. I don't know, but that's what Stephen said. Maybe there's a reason to, to make it more obvious. But some of those, I wasn't really touching. I'll just say that.
I won't speak for the committee since I didn't get to attend yesterday, but my understanding is you are not alone in that, and I felt the same thing, and I think they voiced that opinion also. That's why they're going back and trying to see what else, and I think even Steve is going to try to do some research to get some examples to give to them. But Ruby, if you or Lorinda want to add to that.
Yeah, we looked, I think there were 6 options yesterday, and most of them, we did feel like it kind of took away, it was kind of distracting from the message we was trying to give about the difference between 911 and 862, 8600. Some of them, we just disagreed with the direction some of the options were going. So we narrowed it down to the 3 that we felt we could give more focus on. They did a really good job. I'm sure they were, they had a good train of thought, but we did feel some of it was kind of taking us in a different direction. And so I'm not sure if you saw all 6 options, but there were 3 that we focused on. I think the wrong number dial, the wrong number, when the wrong number is dialed, using some real facts or real calls. But that's where we were on that. Dorinda?
In what they presented, the first one that you saw, I think that was a picture of a guy with the imprint of an iron on his shirt. We pointed out that we thought it was a little bit silly, and that it needed to be a little bit more representative of stuff that actually happened. We actually, I think if I remember correctly, we liked the flicker one, which was house party too loud, call 311, a house on fire, call 911, a digital flicker ad. We liked that one. There was another one that was, oh Lord, I'm having trouble remembering off the top of my head. But what they were looking at is they were trying to do something that was a little bit, I won't say comedy related, but lighthearted. They were also trying to do one that was kind of Nashville related. That was where you saw the Someone Stole Your Man. It's a song.
It was a reference to a song, like Jim Lean.
We did ask them if they could to find something Nashville related that would kind of tie in for us, would be fine. But we overall basically told them that we wanted to see something a little bit more serious, with a little bit more in line with what we think the gravitas of 911.
Yeah, I was looking at the options, and yes, the option number 1 is the one that had the iron, the man with the iron. And then the other, same with option 1, is the one that had the gentleman that had the camera that kind of gave him a tan. And so we did not vote for option number 2, which was was like too busy. The buried in calls is what it was. And it was a lot of calls, and the real 911 call was buried in the call. So we did not we did not go that way. And then, option 4 is the one with the song. And option 5, the digital flicker that had 911 in the emergency and 311 for the house call. And the option number 6 was like take the quiz. It was more like a quiz, then it was going to lead you to another website that would have been created. We just thought that was taking us in a different direction. So the option 1, the option 3 with wrong number, and we were going to get some real wrong number dials. And option 5 is what we supported, looking at the digital flicker. So that was just a summary of where it was yesterday.
So I think if we're all okay with this, we'll just, once we get the real calls that you guys are getting, that would be good examples, we can revise those and make them more real life.
Yeah. That's basically what we requested.
Thank you. Sounds like it's in good hands.
Very good. Anything else?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Susan.
I said, thank you. It sounds like it's in good hands, and y'all were thinking of the outlook.
Thank you.
Very good. David, I would ask that when your committee meets, if they would make sure that everybody knows, in case somebody else on the board just wants to participate, you know, good ideas from all of us and that. So if you just make sure everybody knows, that would be appreciated.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I would like to know too, David, when the meetings are, okay? Thank you, Cleo.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Our next meeting is now September 17th. I do believe, let me look at my calendar. I think I did.
I believe you're right.
We're going to look at
17th.
maybe trying to see if we can find a room that's big enough for all the board members, Mark and Steve at least. So we'll see what we can do to make it a little bit easier. If not, I was going to say, is everybody all right with that, or would you rather continue to do it by call?
I'm okay with in person.
I'm okay with meeting in person.
All right.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? Meeting virtual?
Okay. What Mark and I discussed before was trying to find a room where we could literally be 6 feet apart or whatever, because I know we're looking maybe out at the South Precinct where they have meeting rooms that's fairly large.
Okay.
Training, and we could also do virtual if anybody would rather do that, but sometimes it's easier to meet if you can be in one spot. So unless somebody has a great aversion to it, I would like to try to meet for those who would like to in person next month, if we can find a space that meets the guidelines.
I'm in favor of it.
I'm also in favor to look for a place.
Is anybody against? Yeah, but we'll try to go ahead and make sure we can have a computer set up so that for anybody that can't, and as well as the folks from the 911 center, Larry Law and some of them can also call in and be part of it, but at least the people of the board will be able to meet and see each other and talk. Mark's talking, hang on.
Yeah, I just had a thought, and Steve, you can let me know if this might work. Could we possibly meet at the 911 backup center? I know they have the training classes out there, but if the training class, if we picked a time when they weren't doing something out there, and then we could possibly even have a computer set up for, where people could. We could do a virtual meeting with some of them. I
don't mind doing that. I've never been to the backup center anyway.
Well, I don't know if it'll work. I mean, somebody from the 911 center here would have to, kind of give some thought to that and see if it might be a possibility. It just came to my mind that if
there's a large conference room out there, Mark, and we do have on a regular basis 10 to 12 members of our team on a every 2-week basis meeting in that space. There's plenty of space around that very large table to put us, even if we were to remain in masks during that meeting. So we do have the space, and there's technology in there with phones and computers to accommodate that at the Harlem site.
So it might be something we can look at then, yeah, good.
All right, let's visit that then. We'll make sure to get it out to everybody and let them know for sure what we're doing, but let's plan on trying to do that for the September meeting.
I agree.
All right, very good. That's all I have on the agenda unless somebody else knows something we need to discuss. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Before we do, I just want to give condolences to you for the loss of your family member and Mr. Trevino, and that we, the board, will keep you guys in our prayers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
I second. A motion, and Ruby has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will reflect that everybody voted for an adjournment.
Bye. I'll see you guys next month.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna have.
Kenya? Kenya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mark.
Yes, I wanted to give you a big thank you for all what you did for us here with the problems we had. Thank you so much for working with everybody.
You're welcome. No.
If we did end up having a virtual meeting next time, could we request you to work with us again?
Yes, you can if you would like to. Just let Stephanie know. I'm pretty sure that's probably who you went through. Just let Stephanie know you would like for me to host a meeting.
Now, I just went through the help desk, so yeah, if we end up deciding that we're going to have another one, another virtual meeting in September, yeah, I just really
you can let the help desk know as well. They can put that into the ticket. Just tell them, make sure you include it in the ticket.
Yeah, I just think you went the extra mile to help us. I really do appreciate you.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Yeah, you did, Kenya. We really appreciate it.
You guys are so welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna log off then. Thank you.
Okay, bye, you guys.
All right, see you, Mark.
Bye.